All right, so have you ever like dodged something coming right at you, like without even thinking?
Oh, yeah, like a reflex.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did my brain even do that so fast? Well, today we're gonna like dive into the math behind those moments.
The math.
Yeah, the incredible calculations our brains are doing all the time without us even knowing.
You mean like mental math, but on a whole other level.
Exactly. We're using this new scientist article. It's called The Mathematics of Mind. It's pretty wild.
The mathematics of mind. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it basically like dives into how researchers are using math to understand thinking prediction, even consciousness.
Whoa, okay, so this is getting deep.
Super deep.
So where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, the article talks about things like small world network and neural avalanches. Honestly, it sounds kind of chaotic.
Neural avalanche. Okay, that does sound a bit intense, but I think I've heard of that small world network thing before.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that like the 6 degrees of separation idea?
Yeah, like the Kevin Bacon thing.
Exactly. You know how they say you're only like 6 people away from anyone else in the world?
Right, like you could be 6 handshakes away from the president or something.
Well, it turns out our brains are kind of structured the same way. It's called a small world network because there are these short paths between different areas of the brain, allowing for really fast communication.
Wait, so my brain is like a social butterfly constantly networking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
In a way, yes. But here's the thing. Most of those connections are actually local.
Local.
Yeah, only about 1 in every 25 nerve fibers connect distant parts of the brain.
That's interesting. So most of the chatter is happening in like little neighborhood groups.
You got it. It's all about efficiency. Think of it this way. Long nerve fibers, they're like building these massive highways across a whole continent.
Yeah, that would be super expensive and take forever.
Exactly. So by keeping most of the connections local, the brain saves energy while still, keeping those long distance lines open for important stuff.
So it's like evolution figured out the best way to balance cost and connectivity.
Pretty smart, mate. And within this network, you have these hubs called the Rich Club.
The Rich Club. What is that? Like the VIP section of the brain?
Haha, sort of. They're these highly interconnected regions that act like major transportation hubs with tons of information flowing through them.
So they're kind of vital to keeping everything running smoothly.
You could say that. And actually, researchers are finding that disruptions in these rich club hubs could be linked to some pretty serious conditions.
Like what?
Like schizophrenia, for example. It really highlights how important these hubs are for a healthy brain.
It's wild. I never thought about it like that. But I'm still kind of stuck on this idea of information actually flowing through the brain.
Ah, yeah, how does that actually look?
Yeah, what did that even look like?
Well, imagine like a cascade of activities spreading through the network like an avalanche.
An avalanche.
Yeah.
Okay, now that sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, they're called neural avalanches, and they're actually both good and bad. Well, they're super important for communication between different parts of the brain, but if they get out of control, things can go haywire.
So it's like the brain is constantly walking this tightrope between order and chaos.
Exactly. And it's actually maintaining this delicate balance at a point called the critical point.
The critical point, what is that?
Think of it as the sweet spot between order and chaos. It's where the brain is like perfectly tuned to be flexible and responsive.
Okay, I'm following so far, but how do we even know about these avalanches? Can we like see them happening?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. Scientists have actually observed that these neural avalanches follow a mathematical pattern.
Wait, really? What kind of pattern?
It's called a power law distribution, and it's actually the same kind of pattern you see in like real avalanches or earthquakes. It's like this hidden order in the chaos.
Wow, so there's like math
Yeah.
even in the way our neurons fire? This is blowing my mind already. But our brains do more than just react, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're also predicting what will happen next, like how I dodged that imaginary frisbee earlier.
Right. It's like our brains are constantly trying to stay one step ahead.
So how does that fit into all of this?
It's all about the Bayesian brain. Have you heard
Yeah.
of that?
Bayesian brain. Okay, now that definitely sounds like a math term.
It is, but it's actually pretty simple. It's based on this idea called Bayesian statistics, which is basically a way of updating your beliefs based on new evidence.
So like learning from experience.
Exactly. So your brain makes predictions about the world and then updates those predictions as it gets new information.
So like my brain is constantly making these educated guesses and then refining them as it goes.
You got it.
Okay, I kind of get it, but can you give me like a real world example?
Sure. Think about something like reaching for a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Your brain is already predicting the trajectory of your hand, the weight of the cup, even how much force you'll need to grip it. And all of that happens before you even touch the cup.
Whoa. So even simple actions like that involve tons of like hidden calculations.
Tons. It's happening all the time without us even realizing it. And this Bayesian brain idea, it can even explain things like phantom limb sensations.
Wait, what? How does predicting the future relate to phantom limbs?
Well, think about it. If your brain is used to receiving sensory input from a limb that's no longer there, it might still try to predict those sensations even though the limb is gone.
So it's like a prediction error, like a glitch in the matrix or something.
Exactly. And it's not like we're only focused on one prediction at a time, right? Our minds are constantly jumping from one thought to another.
Tell me about it. My mind is like a web browser with like 20 tabs open at once.
Haha, right. And that brings us to another fascinating area of research, this idea of winnerless competition between thoughts.
Winnerless competition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that all about?
Well, it's kind of like an ongoing battle between different neural networks, each one vying for dominance, but none ever really winning outright.
So it's like a constant mental tug of war.
You got it.
But how does that relate to this whole Bayesian brain thing?
Well, it's all connected. The predictions our brains make can actually influence which thoughts rise to the surface.
Okay, how so?
Well, for example, if you're in a dangerous situation, your brain might prioritize thoughts related to survival and push down those less urgent thoughts.
So it's like the brain is a master prioritizer using predictions to filter out the noise.
Exactly.
That's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Uh,
But there's one more concept from this article that I just gotta ask you about.
oh yeah. What's that?
Measuring consciousness. Can we really do that with math?
That's like the holy grail of neuroscience, isn't it? But yeah, some researchers believe it is possible. This article talks about the work of Giulio Tononi and his theory of consciousness based on something called the phi factor.
The phi factor. That sounds like something straight out of Star Trek. What is that exactly?
Well, basically, it's all about the integration of information. Phi is a measure of how much information a system can integrate with a higher phi, meaning a more conscious system.
So it's not just about processing information. It's about weaving it all together into like a unified experience.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I get it. But can you give me like a concrete example?
Sure, think about the difference between a brain and a digital camera.
Okay.
A camera can process millions of pixels independently, but it doesn't actually see a coherent image.
It's just crunching data, not experiencing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But our brains were really good at integrating information from all our senses, creating this seamless stream of conscious experience.
So our brains have a high phi because they're like masters of integration.
That's the idea. And this actually helps explain why the cerebral cortex, even though it has fewer neurons than the cerebellum, seems to be where consciousness happens. It's all about the connections and the high level of information integration.
Okay, so we've got this small world network, the rich club and these neural avalanches, and now this phi factor. It's all starting to come together. But how does phi actually help us measure consciousness? Like, can we just stick a thermometer in someone's head and get a phi reading?
Haha, if only it were that easy. It's definitely not that simple. Tononi and others are working on methods to calculate phi based on brain activity, but it's still early days.
So it's more of a theoretical framework at this point.
For now.
But if we could actually measure phi, what would that mean?
Oh, the implications are huge. Imagine being able to assess levels of consciousness in patients with brain injuries, or even determine the consciousness of animals or artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay. Now that's getting into some serious ethical territory. But it also highlights just how groundbreaking this research really is. We're talking about quantifying something as mysterious as consciousness.
It's truly mind-blowing.
I gotta say, this deep dive has been quite the journey. We've gone from brain networks to predicting frisbees to measuring consciousness.
I mean, we're not even done yet.
I know. It's amazing to think that all of this is happening inside our heads every second of every day.
It really makes you appreciate the power of the human mind.
Before we wrap up this incredible exploration into the math of the mind, I'm curious, what's like the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
For me, it's this idea that even our most complex thoughts and feelings, they can be understood through the lens of math. It's like this hidden language of the universe.
It's kind of poetic when you think about it. Like our brains are these incredible machines that have evolved over millions of years to do all these amazing things.
Right. And when you look at it from a mathematical perspective, it just makes you realize how elegant and efficient it all is.
Yeah, it's like we're not just passive observers of the world. We're actively shaping our reality with all these calculations happening in our heads.
Exactly.
So knowing all this, does it change how you think about your own thoughts,
Yeah.
your decisions, your experiences?
Definitely. It makes me a lot more aware of the processes behind my own mental life. And honestly, it makes me want to learn even more.
Me too.
Ugh.
It's like I've been given this whole new way of looking at the world and myself. And I bet our listeners are feeling the same way.
I think it's safe to say this stuff is pretty mind-blowing.
Totally. So as we wrap up this incredible journey into the mathematical landscape of the mind, what's one thing you'd encourage our listeners to explore further on their own?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think a lot of people don't realize how much our bodies influence our minds. Have you ever heard of embodied cognition?
Embodied cognition.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever really dug into it.
It's basically the idea that our minds aren't just stuck in our heads. They're like deeply connected to our bodies and our senses and our interactions with the world.
That makes sense. I mean, our brains didn't evolve in a vacuum, right? They evolved to help us move around and survive.
Exactly. And embodied cognition is really changing how we think about everything from perception to language to decision making.
Okay, so to all our listeners out there, if you're looking for your next deep dive, check out embodied cognition.
Yeah, it's definitely a rabbit hole worth exploring. And remember, this deep dive has just been a glimpse into the amazing world of computational neuroscience.
There's so much more to discover, so many mysteries yet to be unraveled.
So keep those synapses firing and those neural networks buzzing.
And until next time, keep exploring the incredible world inside your own head.